Hey y'all, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Bodice Siblings,
the podcast where we read all the books we used to steal off our grandmother's nightstands.
And then we drink about it.
On this episode, we read...
Hey, Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
What?
What episode is this?
It's the episode where we read Catherine Coulter's The Sherbrooke Bride.
Ugh, you're the worst. What episode is this?
It's the episode that we're recording in is it April? It's April. It's an April episode.
Something is afoot at the Circle K. What episode is this?
Is it a squirrel?
Oh my God.
What's afoot at the Circle K?
What episode is this?
It's episode 69.
It's episode 69, dudes. Yes, we are on episode 69. And you know what? This is actually technically really episode 70.
It's technically 71, I think.
But we lost it. It's fine. It's
usually that only happens to us and Joanna Lindsay, that we like explode in
I think that is because our author has JL energy.
That's true.
No, so this is episode number 69.
And we do have a banana pants book for you. We're having to re-record it, so we don't remember anything that happened in this episode. Anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
Can I finish what I was trying to say?
I guess so. Go ahead.
On this episode, we read Catherine Coulter's The Sherbrooke Bride.
Number 69!
There is some actual content you need to be aware of in this episode. People keep having sex and they're crying, and you can't really tell. It's not good. I mean, like it's not.
We don't know if the sex is really bad or if they're just crying.
It is bad though. I mean, like she always like gets into it, but she's always crying.
There's a lot of crying.
It's not great. There's also some just like dubious consent, some ravishing going on in this book.
This book does deal with, not with our main characters, but with secondary characters, very serious portrayals of sexual assault.
Yeah, like
how they're handled.
Yeah. It's grotesque, like not in its detail, but in like, you know, what happened and what's threatened to somebody.
But this book does have a very graphic depiction of a miscarriage. I will say, as someone who has gone through this, it did not bother me. In fact, I kind of appreciate it because it's a very realistic depiction. But if that's not your bag, just keep that in mind, because it is fairly graphic and very emotional, and it is a thing. So just keep that in mind.
It also, on the lighter side of things, has ghosts.
Ghosts. We also have marriage by proxy fake outs.
Yeah,
never send your cousin to do your own business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's one of those very high key romances where people are behaving very badly and treating each other like shit, but it's done in such an extremely exaggerated way that it's generally not going to bother most people, except that, like, you know, this miscarriage does come in and bring like a screech and halt, like a handbrake on a railroad car, the whole business. So just FYI about that. Otherwise, it's just it's like a
It's a goddamn delight.
Yeah.
It's a thing that I read when I was in college, and I'm happy to revisit.
You know, a lot of people at work saw this cover and were like, "I've read that." So they've been like, "This must have been a big book."
Yeah. So we are reading The Sherbrooke Bride, number one in The Sherbrooke Bride.
Yeah, evidently they all get their own, like all the siblings. And you got us a relevant wine.
In keeping with the complete fucking disaster energy that Joanna Lindsay has, Catherine Coulter has that same thing for us. We recorded this. It was delightful, and then we fucking lost it. It's fine. It's all fine. It's all fine. I got Fat Bastard, which is my favorite wine. It's a French wine. It comes up in the plot twofold. One being a French wine, and then also somebody being a fat bastard. But keeping with this whole disaster symmetry, I'm in the Publix getting my Fat Bastard. And I put it in the cart, and I see it. Like, I make the mistake of putting it in, like, where you put the fat baby legs, you know, like, in the thing. And I see it slide out in slow motion. I'm like, no. and it broke everywhere. And like 17-year-old boy had to come clean up my wine. And he was like, it's fine, ma'am. It's fine. And I was like, you're making it worse. Stop calling me ma'am. But yes, so we are drinking Fat Bastard, which is my favorite all-time wine. It's a good, cheap wine, $12. It's nice and like medium bodied. It's great. And it's French. Because we deal a lot with the French in this book. And, like, the first 100 pages of this book is weirdly, like, all in France. And you're like, what is happening? I don't understand. This is supposed to be a delightful romance. And why are we all dealing with, like, French intrigue?
Don't worry. The book forgets it for another solid 200 pages.
Oh, yes. So, this book, I have read a lot of the Catherine Coulter books. And Catherine Coulter she started off in historical romance and then kind of has gone off into to do like suspense and like thrillers and
she
stuff.
Kind of does them like one and one, right?
Yeah. And so, reading about her, she's like, oh, poor Catherine Coulter. Her grandmother died very young at 37 and she had a horse ranch and she left the horse ranch to Catherine Coulter. Like, that's sad, but Catherine Coulter,
rich people problems.
Got a horse ranch out of it. So, yeah, she is more known, I think, probably for her suspense, but early in her career, she did the Sherbrooke series, which is kind of like, it's very on par with, everybody talking about Bridgerton and that kind of stuff, where it's like, every sibling has a book and that kind of thing. So, I was just looking. She took a job she was a speechwriter for Wall Street. Like, all right, Catherine. This is the first of her historical romance series. This is the Sherbrooke Bride.
I'll read the back. I love this because it's like one of those things. It's like a letter to the reader. Dear reader, ellipsis. Douglas Sherbrooke, Earl of Northcliffe, is a man besieged. He must have an heir. Thus, he must first provide himself with the requisite bride. Alexandra Chambers, youngest daughter of the Duke of Beresford, has loved Douglas Sherbrooke since he was 15. Unfortunately, it is her sister, the incomparable Melisande, he wishes to wed. But life never ladles out what one expects, and Douglas finds himself wed to the wrong sister. If having an unwanted wife isn't enough, he's also plagued by the Virgin Bride, a ghost that is reputedly seen in the Countess's bedchamber. Does the willowy phantom really appear to Douglas? Does she speak to him? I hope you enjoy reading about the exploits of Alexandra and Douglas as much as I enjoyed writing them. You will see them again in The Hellion Bride, novel 2 of the Bride trilogy. And it's got her signature.
69.
So, this is the best cover we have seen.
I love this cover. I would murder all of y'all for this cover. First of all, it's got the day glow thing.
Lisa Frank threw up on the.
Oh my God.
On the front cover.
Ugh.
On the front cover, it's got the really hollow hologram.
It's gorgeous.
But then it's got her name and the title of the book, and it's got the kind of step back that doesn't have the cutout. Okay, it's just the kind that's got the step back. The step back is the most amazing thing in the world. For one thing, it's still got the color scheme of a Lisa Frank vomit session.
He's just casually laying on that horse like, "Hey girl, what's up?"
And
hey,
she's
girl.
sitting on the ground. And by the way, this is clearly the wrong sister. This is not the right girl.
It's like they're just like, "Hey, Kelly LeBrock, we're gonna put you on the ground. This is not the sister. This is the hot sister."
She's mad as hell sitting on the ground. I like to think that she was doing she was doing archaeology, and he ran up and disturbed her archaeology. That's what's happening in this cover.
You're such a dork.
Well, it's amazing. It is the best cover we have seen in forever.
I love this cover so much. I'm so excited about this book. We're going to go on a journey, everybody. And again, the setback has Kelly LeBrock wearing some riding pants and a blazer, and it's got a guy just casually leaning on his horse.
And he does not look particularly bright.
No, he looks dumb as hell, leaning on that horse like, "Hey, girl. Hey, what's up? Hey." And sign me up for all of it.
And the horse is also given a little side eye.
Oh, it's such a thoroughbred. It is such a fucking Briar thoroughbred horse.
Yes, it is.
It's amazing. Like a horse model. So I read a couple of I read this series. I think I was in college. Because this book is mid-90s, I want to say.
It is. Hold on. Let me confirm that. It is 92. It feels like 92.
Yeah.
It feels like a book that thinks it's too good for The Bride. It thinks it's gone beyond that, but it has not.
It's so again, it's very The Bride esque, but like
Everybody's screaming all the time when they're
she's
not crying.
as funny as Julie Garwood. Like
no.
nobody's as funny.
She thinks she is, though.
So this book opens with Douglas. Douglas and his brother Ryder just take like they have y'all. They have quarterly meetings to like just have bro time. They bro time it out. They bro it out, and then what they do is they're like, "Hey, how many bastard children you got right now? Oh, I got this many. Oh, I got like they tabulate their bastard children and like,
And sometimes, I mean, like, you know, it's the early 19th century. It's the middle of the Napoleonic War, so they got to take some out sometimes because a couple died of fucking consumption.
I mean, and I guess,
God damn it.
I guess like good for y'all, like keeping tabs.
Oh yeah, they're doing the right thing. They're saving money.
I mean, like they're just like, oh, they're like feral cats, just being like, well, I got this many now.
Yep.
Here's my $50. Send it to that lady.
And because we're talking like in the, this is like,
but you like they have like
and there's 50 probably between the both of them.
they are gentlemen, and they both are like, well, I got another 10. I was like, this is absurd. This is insane. You guys are Genghis Khanning it. Like
They're just yard dogs.
my dick
They need to
is
be
so
put down.
powerful. I've got 50 kids, 69. It was wild. So that's how the book opens. And you find out that Douglas is the more responsible because he's slightly less of a man whore. And
He's
like,
still got like 25.
it's wild. It's wild. And then they have this other brother that like we don't even bother with his name because he's too good for everybody else. He's just like, you guys are appalling. And they're like, shut up. Get out of here. You're going to be a priest.
You don't have any bastard, so you don't have any reason to be in our quarterly bastard meeting.
So after the quarterly bastard meeting, Douglas is like, oh, crap, I'm secretly a spy for,
Well, no. Before he does that, he gets reminded by literally everybody, including his terribly shitty mother, that he needs to go ahead and get married so he can make some heirs. And I'm like, he got heirs. That's the problem. But no, he needs to have a bunch of heirs. And so he's like, fine. Fuck all you guys. I'm going to marry that really hot girl, okay?
I met this hot girl once.
And then, like, I went off to battle and whatever. This is too boring. I'll just go past that part. And
she was super hot.
Yeah, I'll just marry that. I'm going to marry her. I'm going to send a letter and saying, okay, guess what? I'm like, it's on. I'm going to marry you. And so he does that. And like, he sets a date for like 2 weeks from now. And then he immediately gets a letter from, because he's a spy. He's a Napoleonic War spy. You need to go and rescue this General George, like George with an S on the end, like George. His girlfriend has been like kidnapped by the French in France. So you need to go deal with that. And he's like, well, shit. How the hell am I supposed to do both those things at once? I can't write back Melisande.
Hey, my cousin Tony.
My Tony just had his heart broken by some bitch, so I'm gonna have him solve this problem for me.
Tony's all like, well, this is all a case of like dudes who are too good looking. Oh, too good.
They don't have enough adversity. These
and
people.
So Tony had a lady, and he's like, oh, this trifling hoe. He's like, I'm very sad. And Douglas is like, you know what'll make you feel better, Tony? Go marry my bride for me. But, you can't marry her. You got to marry her for me.
Yeah, proxy marriage. Which, you can do.
I mean, fair enough. But you know what? You
use your money.
When you use your cousin, who is a notorious horn dog, and you're going to be like, go marry the most attractive woman in England. You get what you get. You get what you get. Like,
so anyway, he goes to France and he finds this woman, and she has been terribly sexually assaulted, yes, by like these Napoleonic thugs, she's liberated by him. Yeah, so he had to like rescue her, and it's this whole like, intrigue thing, and takes her back to England, and everything seems like it's fine. Don't worry, you don't have to remember this for the next like 200 pages.
No, you're like, what is it? Who is this? Why do we need to know about this person?
Don't worry. Just put that like in the parking lot, and we'll get back to it. Because nobody else in this book gives a shit about it either. So he gets back, and he's like, Tony's like, so don't be mad. He's like, what do you mean don't be mad? Don't be mad. All right, I did marry Melisande.
I did you a favor.
Yeah, because Melisande is a bitch on wheels, dude. You don't deserve to be married to Melisande. And Melisande's over there like, she's being like just humiliated constantly by this guy, by the way.
So I will say, Melisande is into it. She is into Tony with a capital
She
T.
is, but he is also really okay. So she is like your classic spoiled screaming bitch, although not as bad as like in shit. What's her name? Like the lady who hates fat people. Jude Devereaux. She's not like a Jude Devereaux mean, skeeving, evil bitch. Okay, but she's just extremely self-centered and she's too pretty for her own good and all this.
Well,
so
yeah.
Tony is like sexually humiliating her.
Well, all right, hold on. So Tony goes to do his job. Tony had one job. Tony had one job. One job. He was supposed to marry by proxy Melisande. But then he sees Melisande and he's like,
Schwing.
He's like, who's Douglas? Who cares? So he and Melisande is feeling it too. They have a very toxic relationship in that there is like a lot of power imbalance and things like that, but they are capital H horny for each other.
Yes, they are. But like Tony is like, okay, this is a project.
But so what happens is like, meanwhile, Douglas is in like wherever France, saving this rando chick, doing things, thinking his cousin is doing the right thing. This is his problem. Never send an idiot to do these kind of things.
Well, and then, okay, so what we know on the back end is also, so Melisande and her sister Alexandra, their father is in your traditional Regency debt. They have a wastrel brother, and like he's a duke, so like they're good catches, right? Like you know what you want's the duke, right? But then, or is it the dick? It's the duke, right?
Yeah, it's totally the dick.
Sometimes it's the dick on the duke.
69.
How is that not actually
69 dicks?
How is the dick on the duke not one of those romance modern romance covers? Somebody needs to get on that. Courtney Milan, maybe? I don't know. Yeah. The dick on the duke.
The dick on the dick.
But so like they are kind of desperate to bring in money, and Alexandra has been in love with Douglas, like, you know, since she first saw him when she was like a kid.
Yeah.
And you know, and he had this relationship with Melisande, and then he went off to war.
But he didn't even know, like, he just saw her once and was like, hey, you're pretty.
Yeah. And
hey.
she is pretty, but she's like this toxic person. I mean, you know.
I think we'll get like, because I have a kinder disposition of Melisande.
I thought she was going to be worse than she was.
Yeah. Like,
so anyway, so we got, that is the setup. And so Tony goes to marry Melisande like he's supposed to. And what he does, he sees all this business. He's like, oh, okay, I'm going to fix this shit for Douglas. He will thank me in the long run.
Oh my God. Like, yeah, we'll take this sort of mousy one. And he's going to marry the mousy one, and I'm going to take the hot one.
So he does two marriages. One's a proxy marriage, which is Alexandra for Douglas, and one's Melisande for him.
And then he
immediately consummates it, so there's no going back on that one.
Oh, they like having.
So
like,
Douglas comes back from France, and Tony's like, don't be mad. Don't be mad. All right, you stay over there.
Just give me a second.
I fell on this grenade for you because you cannot handle this woman's shit.
Which is 100% correct.
Yes.
It's 100 because Douglas is the dumbest motherfucker.
Oh my God.
Like, he is so dumb.
You have to be somewhat self-aware to handle somebody who is as toxic as Melisande can be.
Yes.
And he does not have that.
No. And so, like, so he, you know, he's like,
well, I'm going to put her aside, like, obviously.
He's like, well, what happened? And he's like, well, this is your wife. And it's like, here's this perfectly lovely person. He's like, this is not the hottest person I've ever seen in my life, so she's garbage.
Yeah. And treats her really bad. He's like, well, obviously we're getting a fucking annulment, right?
I hate you.
And she's like, well, do we have to get an annulment? He's like, obviously we do.
You're garbage.
Ugh. Meanwhile, we should mention there's a ghost.
Ghost.
And it appears in the Countess's bedchambers, which is where Alex is about to go live. And she's the virgin bride, and you know, she's got one of those stories, whatever.
Always got a story.
Yeah, and then people keep saying that they've seen her. And Galgosa has a little sister, Sinjin, who's like the little hellraiser.
Oh, she's so great. Yeah.
And who's obsessed with the ghost idea too.
And you're also like, you know, in this like whatever series, like you're building to the Sinjin book. Like, yeah.
That's the one something that you really want to read, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all this is kind of going on at once. And of course, Alex is just heartbroken that she's going to be put on, because that's really fucking embarrassing.
She's heartbroken, but she's also like, I will say that she's, for all the shit he puts her through, she's like, fuck you. Like, she does, like, it goes, this could have gone very to where you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, why is this guy so terrible? No, it's like a Julie Garwood or whatever, where she is given as good as she's getting. She throws tables at this man. I mean,
there are fights. Like, there ends up being like this, like, family fight between Tony and Douglas, and all of a sudden the bitches jump in, where like Melisande is throwing tables and Alex is like bashing
punches.
Like, so it is like, it's elevated enough to where you're just not like, this poor woman is being abused the whole time.
Everybody's screaming. So I mean, that's where, like, and I know this is not going to be the case for every reader. Some readers are going to be bothered by it.
Yes,
but to us, you know, it's the kind of thing where everybody is dialed up to 11. Therefore, it is not really upsetting.
Yes, it's ridiculous. Like, so you have Alex and Douglas just keep having these back and forth. So, like, she tries to, like, just leave a couple of times.
And she falls off her horse, and then he falls off of his horse, and it's this whole business. And before she really tries to leave, she gets the idea to try to seduce him.
She gets the idea because, like, one of the most amazing scenes in the book is Ryder, his brother, the brother that has 25, illegitimate children compared to Douglas's 20, shows up. And he's like, he looks at Alex and he's talking to her and he's just like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And Melisande is like, I'm Melisande. And he's like, yeah, I got it. Yeah. I know who you are. Good. That's great. She's like, but I'm Melisande. Like, she's so used to people falling over themselves. And he's like, yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's nice to meet you. Fine. And he keeps talking to Alex, and like Melisande is just beside herself and like not understanding that somebody is not,
because nobody's ever treated her as if she wasn't like, the
hottest thing in the world. And so he tells her, he's like, Ryder all of a sudden is like, you bind your breast. Because we find out now that like she's a
superhero. She has a superpower, and her power is titties.
He's got the biggest boobs in the world. And then he's like, well, what you should do is unbind those bad boys and go
seduce him. Because once you fuck him, he can't send you home.
And once he sees these gazoombas, like, who's gonna send you him? So she this scene is painful, but it's like, so she goes and she's like naked in front of him, and he's like, just,
why are you doing that? Also, like, where did those come from? But why are you doing that?
He's like dressing her down. So like, she's like, I'm leaving. And then the sister comes into the fray, who is the best, like, 15-year-old, like, foil, like, just,
she just throws so much chaos into it that she doesn't actually, she just turns around and gives up that time.
She was like,
oh, that was the first time, because it's after he sees her naked that she runs away for realsies, and like she's running away and knows that he's following her, so she's serious about it. She hides in the woods and all, and then his dumb fucking ass falls off a goddamn horse because he gets hit in the head in a storm. So she has to go drag him to the caretaker's cottage.
But she's the one who gets sick at the caretaker.
Yeah, because she got rained on, because the old-timey ladies had bigger problems, I guess. So
she drags him to the caretaker's cottage, but then
you think it's gonna be there's only one bed, and he does get all about them puppies. And then this man who has 80,000 bastards has never seen tig old bitties before. Oh, and bitch, they're not rare. There's 4 of them in this room right now.
That's the wildest thing. And then he's basically like somnophilia-ing her. And he's like, oh wait, she's really sick.
Yeah, he's like nuzzling up on her hot skin. Like, wait a minute, this is like really
hot. Yeah. And so they have a whole, like, this book has a whole like caretaker cottage, but like then it turns into just she's sick. It's wild.
And they just keep on going back and forth, like yelling at each other. They finally, so the thing is, he considers himself to be the best lover in all of England and probably also France, but her giant breasts just short circuit his brain. It's like she's like a super villain in the breast.
He decides that he's gonna keep her. I'm going to keep you. You should be grateful. I'm going to keep you. Mm-hmm. You're going to be my bride.
And he thinks that she's going to be all excited about that, but they obviously have like an enormous miscommunication. She tries to leave again.
And so they finally like do it. And The doing it is the wildest description of doing it ever. Like,
well, and the thing is, okay, so he's constantly driven wild by those bazongas, and so he can't like take it slow or whatever. And she's like a 17-year-old virgin, and so she's sobbing because it's terrible.
But then she's so into like it's the depictions of sex in this are wild.
Yes.
Like, because, like, it's all about...
It's all no, yes.
Well, it's not... But then it's, like, him being like, I'm so sorry, I'm so bad at this, but your tits are just so great.
And he's like, okay, next time I'm going to show you how I'm the best lover of all England. And she's like, okay.
And then he just... Like,
does it again. He just sticks it in again.
Well, see, the thing is, like, I took the crying, like... The crying that happens, and there is crying, but like what'll happen is like when like they consummated their marriage, he's just like ram jamming it or whatever, and then like he's like, and then he's just like, gotta go, bye, and like that's when she gets upset because she's like, well, you just left.
But also, okay, so she's like actually injured by this, and so he comes back in and he's all like bossing her around and like cleaning up all the blood, and then he catches another glimpse like she's bruised and battered in the downstairs apartment, but then like he sees her again, large and beautiful breasts.
I don't understand what
and he sticks it back in
what
her.
Are these breasts, like, I mean, what kind of, I don't even know what these could be, because it's like they're so big, and like
the rest of the book is just a war about her breasts, because like they'll go to a dressmaker and there'll be just a big fight over how much of her breasts other people are allowed to see, and then yet again he's like, okay, this time I'm gonna
he's the worst at sex.
It is insane, and like she doesn't stop crying after time 1 or time 2.
Oh my God.
It keeps happening, and she keeps crying, and it'll be like outside.
But at the same time, like she is still like Catherine Coulter is making a point to let us know that she is like deriving satisfaction from this,
and he does
like,
give her oral.
It's not like she's just like crying through the whole thing. It's just weirdly written about like him just being like, "Grr," and then like her crying after. Because again, what happens is like.
Also, he won't say anything nice to her. He says the meanest
things. Oh my God,
things.
he's so mean. He's like, y'all, he never says anything nice to her. Ever. Like, there's no, oh, you're beautiful to me, or blah, blah, blah. Like, he's just like, you got nice tits.
I dog-eared a page. Okay. So, damn it, it's your fault. If you weren't so what? So extravagantly beautiful? So utterly perfect? Well, no, you're not. Not really. It's just that it has to be your fault. No woman has ever before made me into such a fool, such an uncontrolled imbecile, and God knows you're not your sister, so... No, I'm not my bloody sister. I'm just me, and you can barely even bring yourself to look at me. That's been soundly disproved. All I have to do is look at you and go mad. Well, maybe not your face, but the rest of you, and that's still you. You must be a witch. You brought me low. It must be those breasts of yours. What the fuck is happening in this book, you people?
It's amazing. So, after they're like, you know, he's decided to keep her after all of their like...
Yes and no, and chairs and splintered tables, and somebody locks somebody in a room at some point. It's bananas. And we should also say that every so often the ghost shows up.
So they go to London, and in London, all of a sudden he's got all this intrigue, the French intrigue, and she's like, "What's happening?" So like
it's all happening in French, and of course she doesn't speak French.
And she's like, "Hey, somebody teach me how to speak French." He's like, "No. Les dos.
No.
So she hires
Madame Poocher Poochers.
She hires a guy to teach her, but like also she's learned just enough French to be chaotic. So she's at the modiste, and all of a sudden like somebody's just there grabbing her, and like basically
no, it's in the bookstore. She So, like, okay, they encountered George somewhere. I forget where. Or there's like a break-in or something. Something has happened. I forget what it is. And so he tells her, you will not leave this house without me. And she's like, fuck you, I absolutely will. And also, here's my titties. And so she ends up going to this bookstore, which is like the very fashionable bookstore, to pick up a book for St. John. And this guy surprises her out of the blue and threatens her in a bookstore. Like, he's got a gun. And so she uses the word, like Douglas taught her.
Sacre bleu.
No, she teaches her married, which just means shit.
Yeah.
Then she's like, that's what she starts screaming at this guy.
Bad. Yeah, like she just keeps screaming like that and like, how do I order shoes? Like 4 like random phrases.
Donde está el biblu? Wait, that's Spanish.
Yes, exactly. And she's just like so proud of herself.
Yeah, and like meanwhile, it gets back to Douglas before she even gets back to the house that she did something crazy in a bookstore, as opposed to she was assaulted in a bookstore, which you would think would be the story.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, so she gets home and he's really mad. And
Your tits are just so big you can't even go to the bookstore.
So he's like, we're going home. All right, we're going home. This guy is dangerous, but he won't tell her anything.
Nothing.
So they think that they've gotten away from this guy, but evidently he's haunting the road all the way back to home, knowing that she's going to have to pee sometime.
This bitch is going to have to pee, and I know where she's going to do it.
So I assume that he is scuttling between stands of trees, like Bugs Bunny or something. I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense how he's ready when she gets out of the carriage to pee. And frankly, I thought they were getting out of the carriage so he could fuck her in the woods again, which they're doing all the time through this.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So anyway, this time it's actually just that she pees, which at least somebody's peeing in a book.
But at the same time, it's wild that he knew exactly, like, this bitch is peeing. Now it's time to go. Like,
Well, maybe it's like, okay, so if you're on your way to Atlanta, you're going to stop to pee in Thompson, Georgia. There's a good McDonald's there that's clean. So maybe it's like that. There's a pee spot that everybody knows.
I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
But also, would a lady, I do want to know, like, if a lady would just get out of the...
Well, what's she going to do? Like, can you imagine the chamber pot in a coach? It's going to be spilling.
I don't know.
She's not going to pee in the chamber pot in front of everybody.
I feel like that they would stop the coach and let her pee in the chamber pot and then empty it.
But then she'd know she had just... I mean, it would smell like somebody peed in here.
You empty it.
Well, it would still smell like somebody peed in here.
Well, I know, but I don't think that people just got out and pissed. Like, ladies didn't do... I mean, we would, but...
Well, I mean, but like, staying inside
now I want to know.
Better.
I want to know how they, like, had stagecoach.
Historians.
I am... Yeah, I don't know. I don't...
In the era where they evidently invented tickle bitties, did they also pee in the woods?
I have to look that up. I'd find out. But anyway, this jabroni knew exactly where she was going to be at what time.
Le jabroni.
Le jabrona. Just like he chloroformed the fuck out of her. And he's like...
It's Douglas who gets the fuck out of her.
Yeah. And then so he takes her and then Douglas is all, oh shit, I love...
And then she runs like eight horses into the ground or whatever.
He's like, I love this ugly bitch.
Yeah.
So I got to get her.
Mm-hmm. And so he starts this like giant, search for her, and so what happens is that the ghost comes and tells her.
He is searched high and low, and he goes back to the Sheffield or whatever manor. I call every fancy
Sherbrooke. Obviously,
I call everybody Sheffield because that is the name of the hero in The Nanny.
Yeah,
and so that's what
Mr. Sheffield.
All fancy British people are the Sheffields.
So yeah, and he falls asleep because he's done all. I mean, like you had to go to fucking sleep. All right. So the ghost comes. It is the most useful ghost in the entire.
She
world.
shows him. She like does like the good touch, or she's like, hey, here's the coordinates.
And here's the weather report. So the channel is going to clear, and you can go and it is the most. It's none of that pointing to the window, whatever.
That ghost is fucking precise.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, shit, I know where to go. We're going to
But he won't tell anybody. He pretends like he had this idea himself because it would be kind of embarrassing to say.
So he and Tony, because he and Tony, even though they're mad at each other, they're still best friends. So they go to France. Meanwhile. We got Alexandra and George, and they're hanging out, and George is like,
oh, God, I forgot about his plan.
George is like, he's rolling up his sleeves. He's like,
I has un plan.
I'm going to rape you. And she's like, why? He's like, well, because my girlfriend, Janine, she got raped. And
by your husband.
She's pregnant. So now I'm going to do that to you. She's like, well, it could, it might not take. Well, like, she has given sound arguments. She's like, we might be here for years. What if I'm infertile? What happens? He's like, what?
Have you paid rent for 5 years? Because, like, what if I don't catch? I mean, what about, like, are we doing IVF? Like, what exactly? How far are we going to take
don't logic me, and so, like, they're doing all this and talking.
And she's not feeling great, by the way.
No, she's not
feeling great. And I mean, she got kind of seasick and all. And finally, he leaves her alone. And she goes out through this window, which she has to shove her boobs out. Like, for most people, it's if you can get out, like, your shoulders.
Her boobs are like saddlebags.
Well, I think of them more as, like, umbrellas. And so she needs to be careful, like... Yeah. You remember that episode of Roseanne where she got stuck in the chimney because her boobs just folded out like a folding umbrella? Yeah, you can't do that. But evidently she's able to make it out of this window, and she runs for it, and she goes a long way, too. Yeah. She just got unlucky then. He rides her down and throws her over his pommel, and she throws up and all. And she's just absolutely miserable. But he's still going on with this fucking plan. It's like, no, I made a plan, okay? The plan is I'm going to rape you till you get pregnant and then send you back to Douglas because fuck Douglas. And, like, meanwhile, she's just, like, puking and all. And Douglas is trying to find her and is sneaking around. And the big problem is we all know that the guy who actually hurt Janine, is not Douglas. Janine was just embarrassed about the fact she was pregnant. It was this, I don't remember the guy's name. They call him the Pigman.
Le Pigman.
He's a general there. He's a Napoleonic general. And so... Like once they figure that out, then everything is golden.
So what happens is, so George is like, here I come. And then she's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, no, you're having a miscarriage. So I will say, speaking of miscarriages, as someone who has gone through it, someone who's going through a miscarriage and also a stillbirth, it's graphic, but I appreciated it because... So many times in these books, you get a fake miscarriage where somebody's like a fake like, everything's fine.
Or it just resolves a plot issue. Like sometimes it's like, because they wanted to have the sex in there, or they wanted to have like a question of like, are we going to get married or not? But they don't want to actually have to deal with any kind of real fallout. So they get rid of the pregnancy with the miscarriage.
So she goes through a miscarriage and she goes through all the things that happen in a miscarriage. And that she is like, you actually have to expel an embryo. That is happening. And all of a sudden, like Douglas shows up and he's like, what's happening? And George is like,
thank God.
Well, like George gets like punched in the face a couple days later, but so all the dudes come together because Tony is like, hey, we can handle this shit later. We got to deal with this.
And they actually deal with it. Like, they actually say, like, Douglas is like, fuck that guy. He did this to her. And Tony says, you don't know that. Sometimes this just happens.
Yes.
Which,
and like,
it was really surprising.
Yeah, it was really great.
Romance. And then their conclusion is amazing, which is that, well, if it was him, he'll go to hell. So let's not worry about it right now.
And like, so they deal with it. And like, they deal with like, basically...
They care for her very compassionately.
They do, and they talk about, like, okay, after she, like, expels this, little ball of cells, like, burning it, and, like, it's done in a very realistic way. Yeah. I appreciated that, and I felt like it was probably the most sensitively handled thing in the whole book.
Yeah, and I mean, they're genuinely caring for her in a way that is, like, quite touching, considering these guys are assholes.
But then it gets bonkers again, so, like... 10 minutes after she has a miscarriage, Janine shows up.
No, Janine shows up before she has the miscarriage, and they have like a slap fight.
Oh my God, it's so stupid. And then so
Janine confesses that she lied, and the reason she lied is because this French general had her captive for months and sold the raping her to other people.
That's
it was really. It did not fit this book, okay? Yeah. So what they decided to do is bring this dude to justice. So there's a whole infiltration scene, where George is in it too. All the three dudes are coming together.
It's kind of and then they have him
They don't kill him.
They don't kill him. What they do is they strip him naked and have him dressed as a pig.
Yeah, they put actual pig ears and a pig snout on his face.
Yes, and have him in the town square.
Yeah, so that happens. Okay, and then they all go back to England and everybody's sorry, and that's the end of the book.
Yeah. I will say
there's not a pregnancy epilogue, and which I appreciate.
I really like that there wasn't a pregnancy epilogue.
He reluctantly uses the L word, finally.
Oh my God. It's somebody, he still never tells her she's attractive.
No.
This book is wild. It was like such weird, chaotic. Like, again, it's like if a Julie Garwood and a Joanna Lindsay had a terrible baby.
Big old titty baby. Like the baby has giant tits. Like that's what happens in this.
Yeah. So this is a perfect 69. So.
Yeah. Woo. So this, woo. And the crazy thing is that this was a super popular book that like many people who I work with recognize this book.
I mean, again, it's like, yeah. So questions.
Well, big dick energy or big dick energy?
I feel like it's this weird thing that happens in this book. And I think it happens.
Oh, we forgot to say the ghost turns out St. John was some of the ghosts.
Some of the ghosts.
Like they found like a wig and a dress in St. John's, but like it clearly like she wasn't always there.
No, she's not always there.
So anyway, the ghost was real sometimes, if you were wondering.
So I feel like this book was set up for you to like meet the other brothers and like them better because Douglas is a piece of shit.
Yeah, he really is.
But Ryder, you're kind of like into Ryder.
Yeah, because he is a piece of shit, but he doesn't take himself seriously. So that's the thing. Douglas is one of those po-faced, like, well, I am the heir to whatever, and I am the best lover in all England. Or at least I was until I saw those melons. I'm sorry, I don't really know.
Where Ryder is just like kind of like, hey, I'll tell you what to do.
Yeah,
how to get you. Like, I feel like you're set up to like the other ones better because Douglas sucked, and like he never tells her that. I feel like again, like
it's supposed to be funny.
I feel like comparing this, like this is really like to be compared to I want to say it's the Anthony Bridgerton book, where like Kate is not so pretty and all this kind of stuff, and there's like a really hot sex scene between them where he like unequivocally says like, I am here for you, I'm into you, not your sister.
And he never does that. Like it's more if you're thinking Julie Garwood or Joanna Lindsay and you're thinking about the fine differences between the two, this dude is way more Joanna Lindsay than Julie Garwood. Julie Garwood's dudes are all start out like that, but then their soft and gooey centers are revealed.
Yes, like there's nothing like and I feel like maybe the other brothers might have this, but he sucks.
Yeah, I did not love him. Would you talk shit with her about the heroine?
I love her. Like again, like she starts off like super like
kind of prissy almost.
Mousy and like, but then she's like throwing tables and throwing punches.
You know what it is? It's that she used to keep the power of her enormous pineapples bound up. But once she releases them.
You're exactly correct.
That's it.
I loved her. And you know what? I really liked her. I liked how it was really well written. But like, again, the dudes are just like, meh.
No, I liked her. Read it for her if you're going to read it.
Yeah.
You know? Backdoor to bitch. There's some great, and well, no, there's lots of women in this who are good and bad. Like St. John is great. The mother-in-law is a monster.
Oh, she's a cunt from hell. But then also like,
but they overrun her. It's good.
I low-key loved Melisande. Like, here's the thing. Like, she's one of those people, like, she is the person that's always had somebody say yes to her.
And she's very young.
She is, but also she's just like, it's obviously constructed to where she's the one person and, you know, her sister's the other. But there's a part where she's like, you're fucking around with my sister. This is my sister we're talking about.
Yeah, I always expected them to actually have more conflict between them in this book, and they don't. Mm-mm. The interesting thing is, I almost think that in their lives to this point, they didn't have much to do with each other.
No.
Because Melisande was the beautiful one, and then everybody kind of ignored Alex. So it's not like they had this intrinsically, oppositional relationship.
No.
It's just that, like, well, of course Melisande's going to get everything. Obviously she is. Like, she always does, you know?
Yeah, and I think that, like, Melisande also, like, she's throwing elbows for Tony.
Yeah, she is. Although, I mean, the way that he treats her, I understand that, like, the idea is supposed to be that she's in, like, training or whatever.
But at the same time, I'm like, it's hard to say because Douglas treats Alexander like...
Oh, yeah, well, they're both garbage.
Yeah, like, it's so... Like, I feel like I understand what she's trying to do, but it's not nuanced enough.
No, exactly. Yeah. Agreed. When it comes to consent, is this book more Robin Thicke or Marvin Gaye?
That's hard. Because, like...
There's also the business with Melisande, because the very first sex scene you see is Tony is taking Melisande to go, like...
they're in a carriage.
Yeah, and they're going to go tell everybody what they did. So he's, like, exposing her. Like, they've just had sex for the first time, like, that night. And she was a virgin, and she's never been seen naked by a man before. And so he like exposes her and does all these things to her that she finds exciting but really uncomfortable.
He's spanking her in the carriage.
Yeah, well, and first he's like fingering her and stuff. And then like it's in the situation where like the driver like almost sees her and that kind of thing. Like and she's not comfortable and she says no and he does it anyway. It was a bad start off to sex in this book.
It's a very weird, because again, I feel like taking it back to like The Bride, where we have my favorite couple, like my favorite B couple, which was, you know, her sister and the guy. Like, I feel like this is what they're supposed to be.
But it's not quite done with enough sensitivity.
Yes. So I think, like, I understand what she's trying to do with this, but it's just like, you know, and then again, you have the weird sex between Douglas and Alexander, where like
she's always crying.
Well, and also like the one where she's like ill, like she's full on ill and stuff. So
yeah, it is a little rabbit thing.
The only reason that it's like acceptable is because they're all dialed up to 11.
Yeah, and I mean they always make it clear, but then that's such a cop out of romance novels of this ilk that are a little light ravishy. That by the end of it, she's always like, oh. At the same time as she's sobbing and bleeding.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an issue in this book. Additionally, there is the horrific assault of Janine over in France.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and of course, this book does not treat that in any way, like, approvingly, but it's certainly in here.
Yeah, and, like, it does happen off screen, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but then George's whole plan is, I shall rape you now. And I do appreciate her, like, well, like, now? Like,
revenge.
It's like, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And also, like how on earth are you...
Yeah,
I mean, like, what if?
Have you thought about that?
Yeah, this has that. Your plan has holes. Okay, your plan is, you know. I mean, have you gotten like an extended lease on this place? Like, what if you had to stay here for a long time before you get me pregnant?
I am laid French and laid dumb.
So, how badly are you judging your mama for reading this book?
I don't know. Like, it would have been too long for Mama. Like, because this is like a 500-page book. Like,
I mean, my work mom seems to have read this book, you know.
Yeah, but like my grandmother's would have been like 250 or, you know.
The only thing is that, like what we talked about, like the sexual business in this book, I'm like, It's that like light ravishy kind of book.
It is not, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, now I kind of like, I can't believe you. No, when I was in college, I would be like, I can't believe you read that kind of thing, Grandma. Oh my God. Now I'd have been like, well, I mean, like, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's go Johansson be in the movie. This is interesting. This is one of the few Regency books that I have read that seems to understand that people in the Regency era all were rich because they owned slaves and plantations in the Caribbean, but yet does not realize that it's not cool to do that. Like, because they talk about that, and eventually Ryder has to go deal with some kind of like...
the Ryder book is like him going to the Caribbean.
And I'm like, ooh, I kind of want to read that, and I kind of really don't want to read that.
I did, yeah. I think it'll be interesting.
So, like, that's a interesting because it so rarely comes up in these Regency books. But then when it does come up, usually, you know, it's done with some sort of disapproval of the idea of like buying and selling enslaved people. But not in this book.
You're not leaving the house looking like that.
Oh my God, there's so many outfits in this book, mostly because he just can't deal with the power of dem titties being revealed to the world.
It's that, and also like because her sister is the hot one, and that's who her like family is putting the money into. Like all her clothes, like he derides on being like, well, it's last season.
Like that has anything to do with her. Like he's making fun of her for her shitty wardrobe.
I hate him.
Oh, he's the worst. Anyway, but they argue back and forth about like a half-inch of boob coverage.
Oh, the boob coverage, yeah.
And he's all like, they'll see all the way down to your navel. Like, I doubt it. If they're that big, they're going to be touching baby doll.
I'd be like, what is she wearing? Is she wearing, like, what do you think she's got on?
They don't lift and separate back in this day.
I was just like, what brand do you think she...
Well, that was a pretty titty-forward era in fashion, I have to say.
It was. But I'll just say, yeah, it's so stupid. Okay. Would your 12-year-old self have done... Oh, my God.
All of them. All of them.
They are horny.
And they do go downtown.
They do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that scene where she stands in front of him naked, I would have been horrified by it, but also fascinated by it as a young person.
Hot. It was like really weirdly, terribly like K-drama.
Because he is making fun of her at the same time. She's just like super vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then also, I mean, I guess she can fly or like whatever because she has those magical breastises.
I was just like, yeah. Oh, this book is so good. And terrible. Okay.
Do you know what the difference is between forts and fortresses? It's their breastworks and their buttresses.
Yeah, no, their sex was like weird but hot. It was
constantly weird. And of course, is there anything less hot in real life than some dude telling you how amazing a lover he is and then being like, oh God, not like that. Okay, next time.
Your boobs are too good. Like,
yeah, it's not my fault. It has nothing to do with me. It's them titties.
I can't even.
He's never seen titties before. Just some Regency boobs, I guess, that they got in Bridgerton.
I hate it so much.
You know, they had tickle bitties back then, too.
I hate it.
Tickle bitties have been with us as long as, like, well, no, not malaria. They like dinosaurs had malaria. But as long as like we've had like writing and, you know, worn clothes and had like large cerebrums and stuff, I am pretty sure we have had dem boobs.
Cerebrums. I don't even know them. All right. What pairs nicely with a dumpster fire?
I don't know. I'm thinking like some crazy brandy, like some brandy with some like,
oh my God, tits on the front, like tandies.
Tandies. No. It's like, you know how like they say champagne glasses are modeled after Madame Pompadour's tickle bitties?
I feel like that, like I have to, like, I'm not body shaming anybody, but like that is the weirdest boob ever.
No, not the flutes, like the flatter ones, the ones that are like that. Not,
is that
not like that?
Is that what they did? Like, okay.
I mean, I guess once you put your boob in a glass.
I'm saying, like, what were did they use it on the like the little small ones or the
like the old fashioned kind, like not the.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. I was like, whenever I hear that story, I'm like, that's just like a
no, not the tall ones.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. The ones that are obviously easy to spill and that nobody ever uses anymore.
Well, yeah. But that's a better boob than the whatever here. I was like, well, it's like a torpedo boob.
If your boobs are the same shape as a champagne flute, I'm very sorry to have made you feel bad right then.
What I'm saying. Like, I don't want to say that.
But I do want to see them. Show them to me.
Like, I don't want to.
No, like the little flat ones.
That's good. But you know, I don't. Anybody's boobs are great. They're all fantastic.
Yeah, but her boobs, I mean, beyond great, right?
No, I mean, apparently they could like.
Well, no, fucking dangerous though. I don't want boobs that are gonna make some like dude who's good at sex be bad at sex.
Just like, you know, writing letters to the editor. Like they were just like
calling her congressman. My boobs call Lindsey Graham all the fucking time, and you know what they have to say to Lindsey Graham? Nothing nice.
I don't want to hear from boobs.
Well, guess what? Boobs are on the phone again, motherfucker. Boobs want gun control.
So, should a person in 2022 read this book?
Yes.
I feel like this book was insanely entertaining.
I read this book in like a day and a half. This book was
it's so wild because it was so long. Like it's a long book, but it's one of those where
nothing happens in it except in the very beginning, the very end. It's just people stomping in and out of rooms.
Oh my God, I love a room stomp. I love a room stomper. Like, you know.
It's like how Eddie Izzard talks about like British movies, except like really entertaining.
Yes. So this has been our Hey Sarah. What episode is this?
I don't know. Is it like 52?
Hey. Come on, you can do it.
Is it like well, I don't know because we don't put those special edition ones. We don't give them numbers. So which one is it really? It's like 70.
You're the worst.
It's anyway, 69.
69, dude. So this has been episode 69.
Oh, we missed 420. We could have put 69 out on 420.
Oh, yeah, we could have. But, you know, you had your COVID and everything else. Yeah, and we lost the episode. So this has been Catherine Coulter's The Sherbrooke Bride.
Go read it, y'all.
It's a damn delight. And if you enjoyed us and think that we are a damn delight, you can find us at Bodice Tipplers on Facebook and Instagram, Beat Tipplers on Twitter. And if you want to throw a couple bucks our way, it is patreon.com/Bodice Tipplers. Also, a cheap way that you can support us is to like us, rate us, review us, say anything too mean. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/Bodice Tipplers.
Bodice Tipplers is part of the Frolic Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts.